right, here we go. Today we have Meghann Cuniff, a.k.a. Meghann the Reporter, who became the main person covering the Tory Lanez trial directly from the L.A. courthouse. Tory was just sentenced a couple of hours ago, and Meghann is here today to talk about the case. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been in communication now for months now. Over this whole situation, and I think this is actually the perfect time for you to come in and talk about what happened. So, Tory was originally supposed to be sentenced yesterday.
Yes, that's right. It was scheduled yesterday.
But today, the actual sentencing came through. Now, leading up to the judge sentencing Tory, did you know what it was going to be? Did you have an idea?
I didn't. I really didn't know, but I'd heard that he didn't really have much room legally to do anything other than, 9 to 13 years. I figured it would be no less than 10. That's kind of what I'd been telling people, but you just never really know.
Okay. So leading up to the actual sentencing, how was the courtroom?
It was tense. I mean, there are a lot of people there from all sides. There are neutral parties, there are journalists, there's Tory's family, there's Tory's supporters, and everybody is just kind of wanting to get it going. But the way the court system works, it's such a bureaucratic cluster around there sometimes that it's a lot of just waiting around. So people have been kind of used to that. But there was just a kind of a tension in the air because this is such a final decision here.
Right. When the judge said 10 years, what happened in the courtroom?
There wasn't much of an audible reaction. I did see his, and they introduced her as his fiance, the mother of his 6-year-old son. Jose Baez described her as his fiance. She had her head down and looked like she was just kind of, taking it all in. She wasn't happy. I don't think she was actually crying, but they were obviously upset about it. But the hearing had been going on for so long that there was some indication that he wasn't going to be going too easy on him. I mean, I think probation was kind of out of the question. And then before lunch, he had actually said the 10 years. He hadn't said he was going to do that, but he had asked a question that really indicated he was probably going to go with the 10 years. So I don't think it was too much of a surprise, but I think his family was just kind of shocked, and maybe not shocked, but just taking in the whole thing. We definitely didn't have an outburst like we did when he was convicted.
Right. The judge had made a mention based on one of your tweets that he won't actually do the full 10 years, right? Because it's a state case. Now, I'd heard different things. I remember with federal cases, you have to do 85% of your time, but I'd heard with state cases, you could do 50% of your time.
Yeah, Kathy Ta used the 85% figure today in reference to the state sentence and said that because the question, Judge Hereford asked her, are you saying that if I sentence him to 10 years instead of 13 years, it's a harm to public society? Or it's a harm to society? Because the law actually says that he shall dismiss one of the enhancements if there are multiple enhancements, unless dismissing one of the enhancements would threaten public safety. So when he asked that, he was obviously thinking about dismissing one of the enhancements and getting it down to 10. So Kathy's answer was, she started talking about how if he was sentenced to 13 years, he wouldn't do that long. He would get credit for time served. And then she also mentioned the 85%. So Judge Hereford did clarify when he imposed the sentence that he'll get credit for time served in jail. And there's also a 15% boost. So it's about 300 days that he's going to be credited for. And Judge Hereford said he's also getting credit for the time that he was on house arrest. So it's on its surface probably about 9 years, and then maybe a little bit less than that. But I think it's still much longer than he was hoping for.
Yeah. Tory actually spoke to the court before he was sentenced, right?
Yeah, he did. He spoke for several minutes. He talked about how he was born to Christian preacher parents who really instilled in him, a sense of purpose, and that he has strived to kind of be a light in the world and to help people. And he doesn't want the judge to view him as this monster or this, kind of isolated picture from the trial. And he talked about he was really hoping for a chance to prove himself to the judge, like basically making a plea for probation. Could you do anything other than sentence me to prison? And he talked about that night a little bit. He said that he'd made mistakes and said some really immature things and had revealed some secrets that he shouldn't have. He never talked about the shooting or denied it either way, but his lawyers had made it pretty clear in the beginning that he was denying any involvement in it. He did say that he still cares about Meghann. He said the victim in this was my friend, and he prefaced it by saying that he doesn't like, or he doesn't want to be viewed as somebody who doesn't have any sympathy over this situation. That he says he still cares for Meghann dearly, and he said, regardless of what her feelings are for me or what she thinks of me, that he cared for her a lot, and he even told the judge that he wasn't telling the judge how to do his job or what to do, and he actually introduced his comments by thanking the court for the court staff, the bailiffs, everything for all their time. And he even said something to the judge that he thinks he's been very fair over the last couple of years. And I remember thinking to myself, it's like, well, you better tell some of your fans that, because they've kind of been going crazy over that. And Tory told the judge that, he stood there before him as a celebrity, but that he wasn't asking for any kind of special treatment or anything like that, that he wanted to be, he was mature enough to admit that that he was wrong, and he understood the severity of the charges. And then he even said, I understand the severity of the convictions. And he just said, could the judge show some leniency and give him a chance to prove himself and do everything that he's capable of. So the judge didn't have any reaction other than just, thank you, Mr. Peterson. But I mean, we heard from the judge later on.
Okay, so he's been found guilty. He got sentenced to 10 years. Was he handcuffed and taken away?
Yes, he was. And that was kind of just standard procedure for anything in court like that. But it was the same process, except instead of just being taken back to the jail and just awaiting his case, the judge's order was actually that he's taken to jail and then he's going to be sent to the California Department of Corrections custody. So I'm not sure on the timeline on that, but I imagine it's in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. And afterwards, his lawyer, Jose Baez, actually spoke to the media. I remember I saw a little live stream that you were doing on YouTube about that, but I couldn't really make out some of the audio. So what exactly was Jose trying to say at that point?
Yeah. It was hard to hear, but Jose Baez was talking about how the punishment was too harsh, basically. He thinks that Tory Lanez was made an example of because he's a celebrity, and that nobody else would have faced such a harsh sentence, which just anecdotally, from what I've heard from other attorneys, just knowing things about cases, I mean, I've just heard that's totally not true. Somebody told me who didn't know anything about Tory Lanez, but is a lawyer who does a lot of cases like that, heard about the convictions and said he's facing at least double-digit time because of the gun. And this person said maybe close to the max, but the max was 22 years and 8 months. So he really didn't get anywhere close to that. But double-digit time, I mean, another judge in Orange County who knew I was covering this sent me a text and was like, I think your friend's definitely going to prison. When you shoot someone in California, you go to prison. Doesn't everyone know that? I mean, it was standard.
Oh, yeah. No, we have a regular guest on our show, Tony Yayo, who, grew up in a very rough environment with a lot of shootings and everything else like that. And he said that he had never, ever, ever, ever heard of anyone who shot someone, the person didn't die, and that person was going to go to court and testify against them, and they actually try to take it to trial without taking a plea deal.
If somebody's saying you shot them and they still alive and they willing to take the stand, in my eyes, you're not gonna beat the fucking case.
Yeah.
I never seen that in my life. Somebody saying you shot them and you taking it to trial. If a civilian get on the stand and say, yo, he shot me, to me, you're going to jail.
Everyone in this situation, 100% of the time, takes a plea deal because they know it's an unwinnable situation. When the victim, especially a woman, is going to get on that stand, cry, and point to you and say, this person shot me, it's unwinnable. But yet Tory, which blows everyone's mind, decided to fight this. And, the outcome is really not a surprise to anyone that really understands the legal system.
Yeah. And frankly, when I heard that, I'm like, wow, this is so refreshing to hear. There are people who get it and understand it. And yeah, I mean, it just seemed like the case in the defense was so gassed up on the online Instagram comments that, they really thought they were going to win it. But I was really impressed by Sean Hawley and just the emails that were revealed between her and Tory, just how she dealt with him and how she talked to him and her approach to the whole case. I mean, I think it was a mistake for him to ditch her at the last minute and go with George McDesian. But Jose Baez spoke pretty candidly about that in his interview after court and said that he just thinks that it was very, very poorly handled case and that he wishes he could have litigated the case from the very beginning. And just knowing his experience in jury trials, I think he would have been a best bet. But it's not a guarantee he would have been acquitted. I mean, the evidence against him was pretty strong. That jail phone call, you had Meghann testifying. There was a lot of evidence against him.